Let 'em Go Barefoot is a podcast that dives into all things parenting and education through the lens of mindful awareness. Conversations aim to bring forward patterns, beliefs, and attitudes that shape our expectations and ideas about what it means to raise healthy children. With a blend of science, ancient wisdom, and intuition, we will explore ways to support, nurture, and connect with our growing children while also nurturing and expanding ourselves. I am grateful you are here.
Guess what? We're going camping.
This is a perfect camp spot. We need wood for a campfire. What's that smell?
On fire! Night sky is filling up with pictures of us. I can't fall asleep.
Are you feeling a little scared?
Yeah.
All you need is a little light to keep out the dark.
The dark isn't so scary.
What you just heard is a clip from the adorable preschool show Gus Plus Us, the brainchild of Nick and Christina Caster, also the creators of Caster Studios, a full-service entertainment company outside of Austin, Texas. Nick and Christina joined me for episode 23 of the podcast to talk about how the show came to be, the mission of their studio, as well as their journey to the decision to homeschool their two kids. Gus Plus Us is a fully handcrafted live-action children's show made with love and intention for the entire family. It is beautiful as well as entertaining and educational. I can also guarantee that you will find yourself singing the songs long after you turn off the television. Christina plays Lucy, the mentor to Gus, and Nick puppeteers Gus and Carrot. Family and friends are involved in designing and making the sets, including their children. Talk about immersive learning. Speaking of learning, I learned a ton about making a TV show. My appreciation for this art form has been taken to a whole new level. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy and learn a lot too. Here is my conversation with Nick and Christina Caster. Hello, Christina and Nick. I welcome you to the Let 'em Go Barefoot podcast. And I'm so grateful that your studio reached out and asked about being interviewed and talking about the programming and the work that you're doing as a family and also as a studio. So get us started, I guess, if you can just introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, what you're working on, maybe your family, your background, and kind of just sort of the trajectory to now.
Yeah, hello. I'm Nick Caster. I'm a husband, a dad, and a filmmaker.
Yeah. Hi, Missy. It's so nice to be here. I'm Christina Caster, and I'm a singer and actress, and I homeschool our two children, Brooklyn Blue, who's 10, and Cruz, who is 7. And music is kind of what brought us together. I grew up doing musical theater and singing in church, and I was in a band looking for a piano player, and our moms actually set us up by getting Nick to check out the band that I was in so that we could meet.
Yeah, it was like super rock and roll story.
Very classic. I'm taking mental notes for my own children one day because it worked out well. And at that time, Nick was composing his own music. Babe.
Yeah, I was composing music and hopefully being I wanted to be a film composer at the time.
Okay.
That's what drove me into learning film and getting into it. And then I think at that time is when digital cameras started getting popular. So I bought a DSLR and started filming music videos on the side as a side job and making corporate promo videos and stuff like that.
So when would you say that was? What year?
That was before we were married and then going into our marriage.
Yeah. So it was probably 2005.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2005.
We got married in 2006.
And then soon after we got married is kind of when we started Caster Studios in 2007 with me and my brother and Christina. So we started that out of my parents' garage. Basically, my desk was next to their washer and dryer in there.
That seems like the template for these sorts of stories, doesn't it?
Exactly.
We were in the garage.
Yes, you have to start in a garage.
That's right, to make it legitimate.
Yes, any endeavor.
It was great. It was fun. we still remember it. We loved it because it was the family aspect plays a huge role in Caster Studios and how we think and how we operate. Um, it's kind of like when we started it, my dad was involved. He was a big supporter on us getting it kicked off and stuff. So it was neat. It was a blessing. And that's kind of where the family feel came, was like, we're going to do purpose, keep it quality and apply integrity in everything that we do.
Okay.
In the company. So,
well, and I was going to read your bio on Instagram, which says you're an entertainment company pursuing premium film and television projects that push the ordinary into something extraordinary.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So can you elaborate a little bit on that as far as that sort of being an umbrella mission?
Yes. So now Caster Studios is a full-blown entertainment company. We develop and create films and TV entertainment. We produce projects with our whole production team we have in-house, and we distribute films all over the world through streaming platforms now.
Wow.
So now we've grown from the small family team to expanding to a friendly team with a lot of friends that become family. And we've now have built our own studio facility in Texas, where we have a big sound stage and offices, and there's about 6 of us on the team full time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, and maybe I probably jumped ahead a little bit. If you want to back up to talk about what it looked like when you first started as a family in 2007 and sort of the mission at the time and how it changed over the years.
Yeah, in 2007, we are kind of focused on corporate commercials and music videos. That was probably from the connections we had from friends up in LA. We lived in San Diego at the time, so LA was only a few hours away. And my sister started a fashion blog, actually. And she was like, oh, can you help me build it? So I would figure out how to build a website. And then I had my camera and I would edit her videos and like make a whole thing. And that's when it started expanding and it started connecting us with people in LA. And they were like, what are you guys doing? So it was like before the social media era.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was hilarious because it has changed dramatically.
Right.
Yes. And Nick is very self-taught. So he would, realize he needed photos for content. And so he would just go online and watch YouTube videos on how to light things well. And he would get a camera and he'd learn how to use the camera and all the settings. And so he would just learn how to do it. He's like, oh, we need to do this. I better learn how to do it. And so it was a lot of growing all of us together in that way.
Mm-hmm. When I did notice one of the posts that you made about the fact that he had a love for film and music and was very self-taught. And of course, that speaks very, very much to my heart and belief about when you're passionate about something or you have an interest, then it really is amazing the spark that's created and how you don't really let anything stand in your way. If you want to learn it, you figure out a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah, I remember getting invited to film on a big production in LA for the first time. People were passing my name around, and someone in LA, he was a friend of ours, John Chu, and he was making a movie for Amazon Prime. And he's like, oh, call Nick and he can come up and help. So I went up on set, and it was my first time on a full set at the time. It was 2008, I think. And everyone's saying things what they're called, and I didn't know what they were. And I'm walking around, and they're like, how are you producing this if you don't know what this is called? I was like, I don't know.
That's right. Learning on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. So then after the beginning stages of the 2007 to 8, when did it sort of start taking the turn to do like the family programming?
Yes. So one of the things that we got to create together is our children's show, which is geared towards preschoolers. And it's this passion project that we have talked about and we've dreamed about for a very long time before we had the opportunity to film it, which was almost 2 years ago. And I should actually say that Nick dreamed of it for a long time because I wasn't sure that we should even be making a show at all for kids. So when my daughter was 4 years old, I started diving into books about homeschooling because we both had always known that we would want to homeschool our kids. Nick and I were both homeschooled for part of our childhood.
Okay.
And so the first book that I read was For the Children's Sake by Susan Schaefer Macaulay. And so there's actually this quote. I was going through the book the other day that settled in my mind that I really didn't want my kids to watch a lot of TV growing up. So therefore, making a TV show for children just felt like the biggest fraud to me. And so there's this one quote that really got me, and I had highlighted it years ago. And it says, we devalue the personhood of our wonderful children. We rob their minds of proper, interesting, strong meat to nourish their growing needs. We belittle their interests. We compete with the entertainment of TV. We flick images, flash colors, use tricks. And so for me, that I just didn't see the possibility of making a worthy show for children, and I didn't want to produce another trick or a distraction for kids. And so this became frustrating for both of us because he was dead set on developing this show, and I just didn't want anything to do with it. And he wanted me to be in it. So it just created sort of a conflict and differing.
I kept telling her, I can't do this without you.
Yeah, he kept saying that, but we couldn't come to like
And some days, I'm going to do this without you.
Yeah, some days he'd say, I'm going to do this. And I didn't really like that idea either. He'd say, maybe we'll have to get another Lucy. And I was like, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything. I was just quiet. But in my heart, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can handle that. So, but in the end, it was amazing because our different views helped us create the show that we have today. And so I just started reading to him about what I was learning. And I'd say things like Charlotte Mason says that children are born persons. And I'd lots of different things I'd quote. And so after a while, he started saying, we can make that kind of show. Like we can make a show that is thoughtful, that doesn't talk down to kids, with the goal of inspiring them through creativity and original quality music. And so it just took me a while to come around to that idea, but we started coming up with episode ideas anyway. And then it was hard not to get excited.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And I remember it just sort of grew, and it was contagious. Another book that I checked out from the library book by John Holt was called Learning All the Time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Pioneer of unschooling. And Nick
spoke to me. I was like, I love that book.
Yeah, Nick loved that book. And so as we were learning these things, how we desired to create a certain atmosphere in our own home, we also realized that quality could be carried over into the show that we wanted to make. And so that was really when we got to work.
Well, I love the process that you explain, because I think it shows how much you respect one another, but also the importance of being intentional about what you do decide to create and not jumping into it just because it sounds like a fun, exciting idea. Because sometimes we do that, right? Where, it's so exciting and great, and I just need to do it. And until you can get settled, I guess, in the direction that you want it to go, it really does allow you to create that framework and then build off of that. So it sounds to me like, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like once you were on board, it sort of poured out of you, like the ideas. And
that is exactly what happened. And it was, when I look back, it was kind of beautiful because our kids were really young, babies and preschool when we were talking and dreaming about the show, but it wasn't a practical time to make it. So we had that time to let these ideas marinate and think about the show. We thought about it for years and talked about it. And then we had to come to this understanding of the type of show we wanted to make. So it's a gift that it took as long as it did because we needed that time to figure out what kind of show we wanted to make.
Right. So let's talk about that show.
Yeah. Yes. Let's get into it.
So what's its name and who is it geared for? And kind of just, walk us through, maybe even if you want to, a particular episode, and kind of give us just a general idea for those who are listening.
Yeah, it's called Gus Plus Us. It's a live action children's show. It's about an enduring creature named Gus, who is full of curiosity and creativity. And every episode begins with Gus against a blank canvas, inviting the viewers to join him on an adventure, along with his faithful, zany sidekick, Carrot, and his whimsical mentor, Lucy.
That's me.
Okay.
So there's a lot of 2D animation involved. Basically, every episode's about 11 minutes, and there's a 3-minute song that we wrote, and that's when the kids join in. So there's a full music video that wraps up the lesson of the episode.
That sounds great. And I'm, now that my kids are older, like I was telling you before we started recording, I have not been into what's available really for the younger generation now. So I imagine there's just so many different avenues to access the show. And did you have to find the places that would accept it? Or was it one of those things where the platform's available and if you want to upload your show, you can? So I like, how does that work?
Yeah. So part of our company does distribution, and that's what that basically is we have relationships with platforms, and we had to go pitch it to them, what we're creating prior to making it. And then after we made it, had to go back and say, okay, it's made. Would you like to put it on your platform? What ended up happening is Cadoodle wanted to do an exclusive deal with us. So Cadoodle TV is a AVOD, an ad service platform. So it's free. You don't have to buy a subscription or anything. And they wanted to exclusively have it for the first 4 months. So we went ahead and signed a deal with them to roll it out with them first. And after that, it's now on Amazon, iTunes for purchase. And then in January, we'll be on 20 new platforms throughout the world.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's grown in the last 3 months. It was just released in September.
Yeah.
Okay, so your very first episode was released this past September.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole season, actually.
Yeah, we released it at once.
13 episodes.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it when shows do that, by the way. I'm just going to give a little...
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in that time of, we want to watch the things.
We want it all.
Yeah. Well, on our schedule too, right? So it's like,
you can binge watch it now.
Right. Or it's like, I'm traveling next Sunday. I'm not going to be here when the episode comes out. I really want to see the next one now so I can, come back and watch the other ones when I get back. So no, that's great. Okay. So it started in September. The entire season. How many episodes are in a season?
There's 13.
13, you said that. Okay.
Yeah, 13, and each episode is about 11 minutes.
Now, did you all decide the 11 minutes based on research and the things that you had read, Christina, about children and watching television or attention span, or did y'all look into sort of like the neuroscience of all that, or?
Yeah. I mean, and it seemed to fit well with the way we wanted to tell stories. Then we could just focus on a certain, like, for instance, we have an episode about Sky, and they go on this adventure in a hot air balloon. And so it felt like the right fit. And then to have one music video at the end. And I think Nick can expand on this a little bit too.
Yeah. A lot of the ideas came out as a short. And then we were like, we can go a little longer. We don't want to make it too long. We weren't big about the 22-minute concept that
most TV shows needed. Yeah.
And we thought, what? I think 11 to 12 minutes is a perfect amount of time before you want watch another one or you can just stop.
Right. It kind of gives parents an option, like just a 13-minute, or if you wanted to watch 2 of them at a time, that brings it to closer to 30 minutes. And so we kind of liked that length for the stories.
We liked the way, 8 minutes a lesson in an adventure, and then 3-minute music video to the song.
Now, do you have a CD with music that goes along with your show, or is that something that you?
They're all on Spotify. So all of our music, if you just type in Gus Plus Us, if you have Spotify and iTunes, it'll bring our album up for season 1. Yeah, the whole album's on there.
And did you say you have season 2 ready to go, or you're working on season 2 for the new year?
Yeah, we are now developing season 2.
Okay.
Looking at filming in April. So we wouldn't be in production till April at this point. But also the other cool aspect of the show is it's all handcrafted. Every set piece, most of the set pieces are handcrafted out of cardboard, paper, wood,
a ton of hot glue.
So
much hot glue.
You need to buy stock.
Our big idea.
Yeah, we do.
Exactly. We kept going to Michael's.
Right.
But we love the whole handcraft feel. I mean, that's our favorite thing. So we had a team. Jocelyn got a team of
we had an art director, art department.
And the whole family was here in the studio just building sets for like 3 months with our hands.
That's amazing. That really
Yeah.
changes things too. And I think once somebody watches it knowing that, it really just kind of raises the bar as far as enjoying what you've put out, because it's one thing to have, all the techie things that are available now, but it just changes. It makes it more, I don't know, not just old fashioned, but
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? It just
Artisan-
connects you differently.
Yes.
That's how we felt. We wanted them to feel like we did touch everything and we're, it's warm.
Right.
It kind of gives you that warm feeling.
The care and thought that was put into it and the intention behind it. And we dragged as many family members in as we could just because we loved that. Like our kids were with us the whole time we were making things, and
they had to paint lily pads for the fishing episode.
Yeah, they'd be here playing and creating something out of cardboard for themselves to play with. So it was just this wonderful family atmosphere of
that was
creativity.
kind of your idea, Christina, was to, if we handcrafted, it also inspires creativity without saying anything.
Right.
Visually.
Definitely.
It felt nice. Yeah.
Well, and I love that your kids have been able to be intimately involved, because I think, as a homeschooler myself and as an unschooler and self-directed education advocate, that is one of the pieces that I have certainly learned over the years, is that, when we have something that we love and we're passionate about as parents, it's so wonderful to be able to share that with our children and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's nice to incorporate them, because they're getting to see what it takes. They don't just get to see the finished product, which sometimes people see the finished product and might not think it took very much time. But when they really get to see what goes into it, gives them a different appreciation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So do they come to you with ideas? Have they been inspirational at all? I'm sure.
Oh yes, they do.
They'll tell you when your idea is not good.
Oh yeah. They're brutally honest.
They're good critics too.
Very good.
I think Blue, our daughter, actually helped come up with the Sky episode. We have where we go on the hot air balloon.
Yes, she wrote the intro to the Sky episode, and I actually had, when she told me about it, I said, "Oh, well, you got to come into work and pitch it to everybody." She's like,
"And how
okay.
old was she?"
She was 8 at the time. She was 8 at the time. 8. So she storyboarded it. I told her to storyboard it and then present it to everyone at the office. So she came in and I had filmed her. She stood up and pitched the whole idea.
Man.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
That's great. Talk about just, that's an intense skill set that she's developing in real time.
It was neat.
You can't create a class for that, it's
right.
just that life learning is so powerful.
Right.
So, and your son, you said, is how old?
He's 7.
How does he feel about the show, and is he doing sort of similarly, or is he kind of could take it or leave it?
Oh, he loves it.
Yeah, he's in it in the music videos. That's when we
they're both actually in it.
In. So both of them join in on the music video side. So we have kids in there, and he gets involved. He loves taking. We have T-shirts out now around the show, so he likes to model them and take photos.
That's great.
He's up for anything.
Yeah. He is. He's all about
That's
it.
That's so awesome. So, do you have plans then for a different episode? I mean, not an episode, but a different show, or is this kind of your focus right now, and you're going to just get this really like another season down and just kind of see where this takes you?
As of right now, this is the only kids content we're creating. We have about 4 feature films in development within the company right now that we're looking at. But right now we've been in talks with other platforms about creating other kids content for them. But nothing's set in stone as we're trying to focus on this show right now. It's kind of putting all of our time in, and especially because I play both characters. So I'm Gus and Carrot, and I puppeteer them.
Okay.
So I have to, right now with season 1, we're watching it kind of develop and get in front of everybody. It's been taking up more of my time than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a team that develops stuff with us, and I kind of head the creative team and the vision here. So we've been doing spurts back and forth, but now that we've greenlit season 2, we've been just, let's focus on this show. We don't want to lose sight of what it is. and we want to keep it family doing it and keep it small feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when more and more people start seeing it and other platforms learn about it, that it could technically get away from you.
Right.
If you're not solid in sort of the vision that you have and the direction you really want it to go.
Right.
So as far as the other things that you do with your studio, is it something you can talk about, or like at least think maybe what types of feature films you're working on? As far
Yeah.
like, are they documentaries? Are they, entertainment, drama,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff?
They're narrative, so yeah, they're more drama. One is called Duke of Duval, about George Parr. He was a South Texan politician that ended up building Duke of Duval, like San Diego, Texas.
Okay.
And so we just got the book rights for it. And we are looking at developing that either to a feature film or maybe a series. So it's your typical like politician mobster story from all the way from the 50s and 60s timeline. So a true story based on that. So it's definitely different than the kid show.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, Christina, are you cast for that role? Any of those roles?
I don't know if there's a role in there for me. That's okay. I'll be in the background.
Well, there's a journalist that was trying to take him down, and she was an awesome woman. And I'm like, oh my gosh, babe, maybe.
Oh my gosh, does she get to ride a horse or something? That sounds fun.
Well, and I imagine you do what a typical studio would do, which is you have the screenplay and then you have a casting call and all of those things that have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So like from start to finish with this particular film, what would be a timeline for, from the time that you decide you're going to film it to it being released?
We're right now we're developing it. So we got the book rights and now we're creating like the pitch deck. So how we bring it to life and what the story could be about, the story arc.
Okay.
So act 1, act 2, act 3. And then we pitch it to like Netflix or HBO Max and kind of pitch the whole development package of what this thing can be. And then from there, if it gets greenlit, then we start hiring the writer.
I see.
And then we can start looking into the cast. So it's a long process. It's about a 2-year development process for something that big.
Well, that's good to know. And I appreciate you walking me through that, because I have a feeling there's plenty of people who will listen to this who have kids who might be interested in that sort of that type of work and film and music and the creative arts. And so it's nice to kind of hear behind the scenes, like, what does that really look like? What are the details and the ins and outs?
Yeah, it's
fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It's fascinating.
And how we used to do that for music videos. So we used to actually get a song from a band, from their label, and we would create the story arc idea of what the music video would be to that song. So it kind of played when we were starting Caster. We did a lot of music videos, so we found it was a very similar process.
Yeah, I can imagine it is. So you're available then to people. So if there's a band out there right now who is looking for a production studio, they could contact you and say, we would really like to make a music video.
Yeah. We do a lot of work with the last few we've done is Carrie Underwood, and we've done Midland, a few country bands.
Oh, that's just small potatoes. That's amazing.
Yeah, we did George Strait 2 years ago, I believe. Yeah, 2 years ago we did George Strait, and then Thomas Rhett, do a lot of Thomas Rhett. Yeah, we're kind of worked our way up, and then we worked with a couple pop bands. So we did O-Town was one of them from what was the 2000s.
I was about to say, I'm not familiar. Is there a song?
Yeah, they had a show called Making the Band on MTV.
Oh, okay.
And then we started producing their content.
I see.
And it was a lot of fun. But they're back, so they're touring again, and we're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're laughing about how old we all are now.
I know when you start saying in the 2000s, and it was like a while ago.
Right.
So tell me about your homeschool experience, if you will, or want to. What you want to talk about, sort of like where you are in the grand scheme of things with homeschooling. And you said that both of you had early on agreed that was sort of where you wanted to take things with your own children, because you both had been homeschooled.
Yes.
Okay.
So I homeschooled for junior high, public schooled the rest of my schooling years, and then Nick homeschooled off and on. And so I'm thankful because it's so helpful that we both have this perspective. We weren't happy, in the traditional school system. So that made it very easy to both be on the same page from the very beginning. And when I first started when my daughter was born, I should say, I wasn't sure how I would homeschool, if I would be able to homeschool. The same doubts that everybody has, I think, in the beginning. But I was like, I know I want to homeschool. And so my first experience was just meeting other families that homeschooled and seeing their kids and the relationship. And I just wanted that. So I'm thankful that I got to be around other families who did it. And then as my daughter got,
it's nice when you have somebody who you can share it with and you can ask questions to, and you feel like you have like a little team that's available to you at any point in time. So you don't feel so alone.
Yes. Yeah, that's huge. And just seeing that it works, before I had actually started with my kids, just seeing like how fruitful it is and what a beautiful thing it is. So that was my inspiration. And then as my daughter got older, like around age 4, like I said, I just started reading books and hearing from other people who had gone before. And so now my daughter's 10, my son is 7. So we've been homeschooling since she was, from the very beginning. And it's just been it's been the best thing. Like it's a lifestyle for us more than just, doing our school during the day, because they are such a part of what we do as a family for work. They're here at the studio with us right now while we film, talk to you. So they come and do everything with us. So they learn a lot from their dad by seeing what he does. But for the school day, it's nice when we can start in the morning and have morning time is my favorite thing. I love reading to my kids. So I pick out books for the year and always add more in throughout the year. And we sing together and read the Bible in the morning and do all of those things, poetry, recitation. We look at great art, and it's just this rich, beautiful time that I treasure with them.
Right.
And then we do the normal things, math, reading. And then we try to be outside as much as possible.
They're outside a lot.
Yeah, today they're building this town in the back of our yard. We live on a couple acres, and we've got some chickens, 13 chickens and a cat, wanting to get more animals all the time. But they're building this rock town based off of Roxaboxen. And it was just the best thing, because I read that to them when my daughter was little, and I don't think we've read it for a while now, but they still remember it. And I had always wanted them to build like a little town of like a little Roxaboxen of their own.
That's so
cute.
Yeah,
but she just did today, and I just love it because it just shows it's stuck in her mind, even though it was years after we had read that book over. We'd read it a lot. So it was always there, even though
I think that's such a great point to make. And we found that constantly.
Yeah.
And I always encourage parents when I talk to them is that don't give up hope that they won't do the thing that you particularly love, but always keep that in mind. Like if it's your thing, it's your thing, but don't think that they're going to not enjoy it. Because I noticed even certain topics we would cover, like let's say my son would be between like 5 and 6 and we'd talk about maybe Native Americans, or we would talk about another location on the map. And it would feel like we had kind of exhausted the information, but then we would circle around and we'd talk about it again when he was like 10, or, it was very interesting to see how like, it's not, you would just do it and forget it and never go back to it. And I think that you're right, that there's certain things that do kind of stay in the background and then they poke up again. And same with music. We have a piano here. My son played piano and then my daughter dabbled, and then they both kind of left it for a while. Now my son's picking up the guitar again, and it's just so neat. It's been there all along. It just needed to kind of sit there for a while and marinate, like you said, about your ideas. And
exactly.
So can you tell us about that book? I've never heard of that one before.
Oh, Roxaboxen?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's one of my favorites, actually. It's Barbara Cooney. I believe she wrote it, or maybe she just illustrated it. But It's a picture book, and it's very beautiful, and it's about these kids that live out in the desert, and so they collect rocks, and they make a little town by making an outline with rocks. And there's like a mayor, and then they'll pretend they have horses by just holding rope, and like it's very the way they play, it's very old fashioned. And there's a jail, so if you're speeding too fast on your horse, you can get thrown in the jail. Like it's the cutest thing. Then they set up shops, and so there's like an ice cream shop, a bakery, and you can go and get as much as you want. And I think you collect gems for money. So my daughter created like her own little rock shop, and she had chalk, and she wrote rock shop on her little rock sign. And it's just full of imaginative play.
That's great.
Yeah. And
I pulled it up on Amazon, and it says it's by Alice McLaren.
yes, Alice McLaren.
And and then illustrated by Barbara Cooney. And it looks very cute. Yeah. Super.
Barbara Cooney's wonderful.
Seems representative of a bunch of homeschooling children.
Oh, yes. 100%. It is.
running freely outside, or children in general.
Yes, running freely outside and wild with their imaginations.
As a parent too, like even as a dad watching how Christina homeschools them, it's really neat to see like the hybrid model. Because a lot of people I've noticed ask Christina all the time, like, oh, what curriculum are you using? And Christina, like, I'm kind of mixing it based on how they're learning. And that's kind of neat to see, is like you adjust based on the child.
Yeah.
So I always call it hybrid. They're kind of hybrid learning.
Right.
Through the whole
It's
thing.
an eclectic model, and it can change with what's happening in our lives. And then we learn something new, or I learn something new, and it all adjusts. So it's sort of a beautiful mess of a learning environment.
Right. Well, and I think is what's so beautiful about the option to homeschool. And when you do get that chance to be with your kids and working through different ideas and information with them, is that you, as a parent, an adult, get to revisit certain things, and you get to actually almost learn them better. Right. And you're like, hey, I didn't get a chance to do this when I was your age. I'm really going to take this information. I'm going to go sit over here by myself and read it further, even if you're done.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's their curiosity like your show, Gus's curiosity. I mean, that's childhood, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I love about the character Gus. He's just all curiosity. And then Lucy, which is my character, her job, she's the mentor. So her job is just to be a support to him and like be curious with him.
Yeah.
So I kind of see it as how I homeschool. I'm not there to, be their teacher and tell them, learn this, learn that, but I'm there to just help answer questions or learn it with them. And we're all going to wonder together.
Right. Yes. What have been some lessons that you've learned while being a parent that sort of inspired you to maintain that sort of mission of creating shows with the parents in mind as well? Because I know that was one of the things you had said, or that you had said on like Instagram, or maybe even there's a byline somewhere about that. So it's like, it's not just about the children, it's also about the parents. So what is it about the parents that you're trying to ensure that you do when you create these shows?
Well, I think it really speaks to the quality of what we're making. So we want it to just be the best it can possibly be. We want it to be meant for the family, just like old movies that you love sitting down and watching with your kids. So we want it to have that feel, to where it's enjoyable for everyone. It to be beautifully lit, so cinematic. The sets to be handcrafted. That was another reason we wanted it to be handcrafted. We just wanted to bring everything up to this high quality level. The characters to be well developed and interesting, and then the music to be pleasant for everybody's ears, because kids deserve the best. And if it's the best, then surely parents will like it too. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of our vision. We didn't want it to be annoying in any way.
Yeah, our whole mission too is like we want to make something the whole family could enjoy.
Right.
Whether targeted towards kids, but the whole family could walk in and go, "Oh my gosh, this is joyful. Right. I like it."
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna sit
joyful.
here with you and enjoy it
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we kind
Yeah.
of wanted that to be. That's how I felt with a lot of old school kid shows at the time. There was moments where you walk in and you go, "Oh, I actually like this," or
Right.
I don't mind hearing them in the background.
Yeah. I remember getting sucked into I have a sister who's 11 years younger than I am. And so I remember when she would be watching a show and I would get sucked into the storyline, of some
Mm.
cartoon like Arthur or something like that. And I think that's our goal is for the story to be interesting and the aesthetic, the look of the show to be pleasant, so to where the family gets sucked in and they're like, I kind of want to watch this too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something that's entertaining, engaging, where you're kind of like, where's this story going? And
Yes.
follow the character from beginning to
Right.
end and see how it wraps up. No, and I know as a parent, I loved being able to sit with my kids and watch a show that we both could get something out of. And there's, it's a very bonding experience.
Mhm.
And it's children do need some downtime
Right.
and sometimes it's a snuggling up with the book, but then
Right.
your TV show is almost like a book
Yeah.
in a unique sort of way because it tells a story from beginning to end. And I love that you wrap it up with a song.
Yeah. And that's what we've been noticing. We didn't think about, we always like children's books, but we are always afraid that's our next thing that we're like, ooh, don't mess that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people have been going, oh my gosh, you should turn your episodes into books. And we're like, well,
Yeah, that's kind of like touchy.
we're
We're like,
pretty
ooh.
picky on kids' books. So I don't know. I'm afraid to take that on right now.
We do not want to be in the trashy kid book category if we do make a book. So there's standards
Oh,
there.
I don't think you would be.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Our hopes is to go that way, but we're very picky because we don't look at it as like, oh, that'll make a buck, to sell books. But we
right.
look at like, well, we want it it's got to be good, and that's kind
Right.
of
Like if you put your name on it, you really want it to meet your standards and do and I have a feeling it'll probably come together just like the show did, where you'll think
Right.
about it and mull it over and the
Yeah.
ideas will present itself in due time.
Right. Exactly.
So tell us how people can find you. We talked about Cadoodle,
Right.
but also Amazon Prime.
Mhm.
Are there other platforms where people can purchase your show? And can they purchase them individually or as a season or both?
Yeah, both. You could do the whole season or individual episodes. And the best probably hub is gusplusus.com. So it kind of has, if you go to the website, it has the links to where it's at.
Gotcha.
And as we update it, we'll keep updating it as more platforms take on the show.
All right. And you said that will happen in the new year.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
January we'll be on, we start like spreading out all the different platforms. But right now, kind of the main ones are on right there right now. There's like Cadoodle TV. There's Apple, which is iTunes,
Mhm.
Amazon. And I
Yeah.
think
Amazon is for purchase.
Yeah.
But there's no ads because on Cadoodle it's free, but there are some ads. But it's a good way to see if you like the show.
Okay. And then you said Spotify has your entire all the music.
Right. Spotify and iTunes has the entire album.
Great. And as far as your Instagram and other social media, what would be the best?
Yes. So at Gus Plus Us on Instagram.
Yeah. Our Instagram is at Gus Plus Us. And I think Facebook's the same.
Yes, Facebook is Gus Plus Us. And so we're active on there, always updating everything that's going on.
Yeah, we started creating little shorts as well in between for Instagram and stuff that we post on YouTube and stuff that the characters do. So we have little one-offs we're starting to create in between the seasons.
Yeah, and coming up, we're going to start.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, little shorts. We want to post more behind the scenes of making the show, because we get feedback that kids and families love seeing, like how we made it, and just it shows the family aspect of creating the show, which we'll do a lot more of even as we film the next season.
I was going to say, I think that could be a show all on its own.
Yeah.
You know, almost like the good old vlog days, where you're like, here's what's happening. And
yeah, it's so interesting to see. Yeah. I always love the behind the scenes for movies the most too.
Me too. And waiting until the very end to get like those extra tidbits of information about how something was made or the character development and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a meme that went around years ago of a mom who it was like mom saying to the kid, "Why are you sitting there watching all of those people on TV or on YouTube that you don't know anything about?" And then it says, "Mom promptly turns on a home improvement show and watches people buy homes and clean homes and things like that." And I was like, humans just enjoy watching other humans. It's just true.
It's true.
Yeah, I think that's a great addition to Gus Plus Us. So, are there any parting words or encouragement or advice that you want to offer to families who may have some children who are interested in the entertainment industry or who have that creative sort of drive to make something? What would be some advice that you could provide there, and then also maybe even advice for parents who are interested in homeschooling?
Yeah, with the creative kids that get inspired to do that is always a different thing. I grew up in a family where my dad was a construction worker. So he built buildings and creativity and film and even theater that our family was around. He didn't understand it. But what he did do is he supported it and he was always available to go, what are you doing? I don't understand it, but you show me what you're doing.
Right.
And he was always there to help and encourage, because he wasn't a musician, but I was a piano player, guitar player, and got really into it. And I think now as a parent, I look back and I go, my dad was open. My parents were there, and not that they had to do it, but they were around it and they supported it. And it helped steered me the direction I went.
Sure.
When they didn't even realize it. And they actually helped with a lot of that. What does it look like in that industry? Well, these people are like this, but you don't have to be. You could still do the same thing.
I see. Yeah.
So a lot of that happened in our home, and we're applying that now to our kids.
Right. Well, and I think that keeping that line of communication open and maintaining curiosity as a parent is super important, because it's true. I mean, we don't really know where our kids will end up, and we can't predict the future. So we kind of have to be curious about the now, and then allowing them to sort of lead the way. And then when we can, connect them to resources and information, even if it's not an area that we know anything about, because that happens. So we can't know everything about everything.
Exactly.
And your dad's a creative though, in his own way, right? I mean, building that takes a certain understanding and creation. And, I say everybody's a creator, whether you're creating dances or buildings or plumbing or putting a car together.
It's so true.
So what about you, Christina? How about your insight on either helping our kids follow their interest or getting started homeschooling, or if people are already doing it and feeling a little confused or worried, like what's some direction?
Well, what was really helpful for me was just getting started by reading a book, finding a title that interested me. There's so much encouragement from different moms who have written books about homeschooling. And so I found that really helpful. And then, like I said, if you know someone who homeschools, just hanging out with them and asking questions, if you're curious, and just being with a real person who does it is so helpful. And I would just say that as a mom, you're the best teacher for your child. None of us are doing it perfectly, and that's quite all right. So I think we all have different strengths, and we have this innate knowledge of our children that is just such a gift to them. So I think it's possible for anyone to homeschool if you're willing.
Yes. And I like too how earlier on you both talked about how you found something that spoke to you and then Nick found something that spoke to him. And I do think that's important to bring forward, because we do learn differently. And sometimes it is a difference between the male perspective and the female perspective, or the mom and the dad. And so I do think that's a good point to keep in mind for people, is to remember that just because it spoke to you a certain way doesn't necessarily mean your significant other or spouse will see it that way as well. So to keep looking, because there are lots of voices and lots of insight.
Yeah. I would just say keep digging in, keep learning, and different wording kind of speaks to different
Right.
people. Like Nick just responded really well to the unschooling idea and John Holt's way of talking about things. I think I love when he talks about playing instruments, and you can learn at any age of your life, and how you were saying that you want to do that as well. I do too. I have this dream of playing the
Oh my
viola,
gosh. Yes, that would be amazing.
because it's just so beautiful and deep. And so, like, one day, I might get that big instrument and bring it home, and maybe I'll be 50, 60 or something. I don't know, but he says that, and it's just inspiring. Like, there's so much inspiration
It
out
really
there,
is.
and you kind of have to dig in.
Well, I think you guys are inspiring, and I appreciate you sharing your story today. And it really does I find all of this so helpful to everyone who would want to listen and who's self-directed, which I think we all are self-directed. But,
Mhm.
I think it gives it gives people a template, if you will, of how to pursue interests that their children may be expressing. And so, so thank you for offering your
Sure.
insight and offering your story and letting us get a behind the scenes of what's happening at Caster Studios.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. This is great.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really an honor. This was our first podcast, so you made it very easy, and you're so gracious. So we are just really honored to be able to share anything that we have to offer.
Thank you for spending time with us today. I hope you also have a new appreciation for what it takes to create a show, and will support Nick and Christina by liking and subscribing to their social media pages and sharing their work of art, Gus Plus Us, with family and friends. Please also mark your calendars for February the 16th, when the author and homeschooling mother of 7, Cindy Gaddis, joins me on the Barefoot Playground to talk about supporting and honoring our creative right brain learners. It is sure to be an insightful conversation. As always, stay curious, stay connected, and stay aware. Until next time.